On3 Sports writer and Billy Embody. There he is. Joins us. That smile on his face. Joins us on 365 Sports. Craig Paul, David Smoke. All right. Did you know about this LSU series that was going to be announced? And what's been the reaction to it at the Hilltop?
There's been some rumblings. I believe it was late March. Somebody on my message board said, hey, I kind of heard this rumor about an LSU series. And I said, I'll look into it. And somebody said, well, not imminent, but I think we're on the right track here to getting something announced. And, you know, once it became official this morning, you know, it was huge for SMU. And it's big for LSU, too. You know, Dallas is a big recruiting ground for LSU. Now, what people are surprised about is that it is a home and home. It's going to be played in Tiger Stadium in 2028. It's going to be played in Ford Stadium in 2029. And both schools, in an interesting mix, are paying each other $750K for each game. So it's kind of a interesting trade there of money over the course of a year span. But for SMU fans, I mean, this is what SMU's program has been doing in terms of its scheduling. They've gotten a game with Oklahoma. They've also got another round against Oklahoma in Dallas coming up here in the next couple of years. They've got some other big name marquee matchups in the non-conference, you know, scheduled. They play Baylor this year. They of course got their series ending with TCU, but then you've got Baylor on the schedule for the future as well. So they're trying to schedule up in terms of their non-conference, and this is just the latest example of that. It's a great deal. I think it's two neighboring states that are both recruiting grounds that each program wants to be in. And for SMU, their ascent into the college football playoff has kind of legitimized them as a program that, you know, LSU can welcome into Death Valley, probably feel good about their chances at night in all likelihood in Tiger Stadium. And then you've got SMU hosting them the next year. And Rhett Lashley's been very adamant, and their program has proved they'll play anybody really, anytime, anywhere. You know, they're not afraid of scheduling good road matchups for this fan base to go and enjoy and then get the return trip on the other side of it. So this is another good move by SMU. And again, they're just showing that they're not really afraid of anything. But LSU fans are certainly a little ticked that it's not in Jerry World as one would expect.
That's what I was going to ask you. There's no chance of it moving that, right? Like, they're not going to do the thing where they like, hey, it could be at Jerry World. We'd all make that much more money. That's $750,000 each. Does that kind of cancel out that possibility of them getting at least the possibility brought up of it moving?
I'm not going to rule out anything completely because you just never know, but I'm pretty confident this one's going to be played on SMU's campus. You know, that's the setup of the contract. It was announced as a true home and home. I don't think LSU is going to be able to, you know, flip it in that maybe year lead up to the game after it's played in Tiger Stadium. I just don't see that happening. SMU's really been investing in their stadium as well. It's no 100,000 seat Tiger Stadium, but you know, the expansion of the Gary Weber End Zone complex is a really nice facility. It would not shock me if SMU's expanded its stadium by that point either. You know, 5 years, 4 years is a long time, and SMU's been known to throw around some money quickly to get that expansion of the end zone complex in the ground and got it moving in time for this season. And a couple of prominent boosters have told me, you know, once we did the kitchen, we realized we need to do the bedrooms and the bathrooms and the whole rest of the house. So there's some motivation to expand forward, not make it, you know, anything crazy, but there's the demand. You know, you had BYU, FSU, you've got those games last year that were highly attended. Then you have your Louisville, Miami coming to town this year. You've got Baylor. You know, there's demand for tickets, and that's kind of what that new ACC schedule and, you know, non-conference scheduling has done, along with the success of the team. So it honestly wouldn't shock me if by then we're looking at a slightly expanded Ford Stadium either. So I would expect this to be played on campus.
So, Billy, all the things that you're mentioning there, the college football playoff appearance, big non-cons, I mean, what a difference a year makes, right? And I remember talking to you when just the murmurs were out there about SMU and where they were going to land, and eventually it was the ACC. What kind of a difference has a year made in your estimation covering this team and just what that's been like?
extended vehicle warranties. What is the waiting period? An extended car warranty or vehicle service contract usually has a set expiration. Warranty providers have introduced a waiting period. This waiting period lasts for 30 days or 1,000 miles. That means that your coverage only starts after the 30 days, or once you've reached 1,000 miles. Protect your vehicle. Sign up on Chase today.
Yeah, I thought it was quite the jump going from the preseason expectations in their final year of the AAC and then them winning it. And then you go into the ACC and you say, well, no one's really made a move when they've moved up into the Power 5 ranks. You know, kind of want to be a little cautious here. I think I predicted 9 wins, and that was kind of that would have been the tops of as far as teams moving up. And then they go and did what they did, selling out Ford, you know, going out and you know, landing its highest rated recruiting class in modern program history, making the college football playoff, you know, being probably a special teams play away that Rhett Lashley and his staff probably want back badly from, you know, going to overtime, and who knows, against Clemson, maybe you're beating them in overtime of the ACC championship. It truly is a crazy transition for this program, and they've already legitimized themselves because of their first year, not only in football but in basketball. You're even seeing, you know, the volleyball program, you know, do some great things as well. But that basketball program, you know, kind of finishing off the year tied for 4th in their first year, said a lot. But as far as football goes, I mean, it's business as usual that you'd expect SMU to be among the top teams in the ACC and challenge for a spot in Charlotte. They've got Kevin Jennings back, and we know he's a starter, you know, barring something crazy. They've got a good group around him, and they've got their entire coaching staff back. They were able to retain everybody, including Scott Simons, their defensive coordinator. So the expectations continue to now go up. And now it's the preseason expectations that are very high for this football team. And it's something that they'll have to navigate and go out and, you know, handle early on with that test against Baylor too.
All right, so we had Damon Evans on. It's been maybe three or 4 weeks ago. Really impressed with him, where he's been before, Georgia, Maryland, whatever. What has been, and this is obviously under his watch, maybe it was already something that Rick Hart was working on too, but what has been so far the reaction to him the first few months?
Yeah, everybody has been really pleased with him. You know, he's made some changes. There's been some staff changes within the athletic department already, which you'd expect, and some people who have been around SMU for a long time are no longer there. And that's kind of what you'd expect, though, with the new athletic director. But he nailed his press conference. I mean, you know, we do this for a living, right? Talking, and I don't think he uttered a single during his probably scripted, but also, you know, not off of a teleprompter speech in front of the SMU fans that were in attendance at his introductory press conference. And he hit all the things that I think SMU fans were looking for right off the bat. They want to be engaged in Dallas. They want to see the university get out more and do more. And they've really kind of stepped that up over the last few years. It hasn't been something that has been a negative. They just need to take everything to that next level. I think this fall, going back to the 2024 season and university leadership, seeing some of these other stadiums, seeing some of these other campuses in the ACC, really gave them a good perspective that, hey, look at us. We've done this $1 billion+ capital campaign. We've done this, we've done that, but it's not complete yet. The journey is really just beginning. And that's in part why they decided to go ahead and make a change and find somebody that they feel like can take them to that next level. And, oh, by the way, you have to keep SMU on the right side of whatever realignment comes in the future. So that's been the mindset as to why they brought in Damon Evans. And so far, everybody's been really pleased with that.
Billy Embody again with us on On3.com, covers SMU, but also has Ole Miss on his watch as well. Paul?
And LSU. He's everywhere.
Are you still doing LSU, Billy?
No. We've separated the SEC program so that there's no whatever, you know.
Okay. Turf war.
There. Yeah. You know, you don't need them going back and forth at you. They already do that a little bit. But, yeah, so Ole Miss, SMU, but still, you know, keep a close eye on LSU. Spent a lot of great years down there.
So I do have a question about LSU. SMU clearly, like we've talked about, is in an ascendancy right now. They're excited. They've got, money spending. They want to expand the stadium. They're playing this. LSU, I can't tell where they are. Like they have inherent advantages by being LSU and being in the SEC, but Brian Kelly has certainly cleaned up things administratively in the state of Louisiana, which is not an easy thing to do, but they're missing. They don't feel badass anymore, Billy. Like that's where I feel like they're losing it. And I don't really know how to ask a question, but are they not badasses anymore?
Yeah, I don't know how to answer that either, because this is where the cultural shift from Ed Ogeron to Brian Kelly really comes into play. He is a political science major who's navigated this and navigated that and was brought in to really give LSU a consistently high floor. And I said that when he was hired. I think Brian Kelly was going to give LSU fans definitely 9 wins, mostly 10 wins a year. But the problem is, where do you find those difference makers all together that bring you to that 12 win, that SEC championship, that national championship? And the combination of that first year where they went to Atlanta with the Jaden Daniels Heisman Trophy, you've got all these different pieces that haven't, just to use a Brian Kelly word, fallen into alignment yet for one magical run like they had in 19 and in the past. So I don't know if I don't think that's maybe the right way to look at it as far as the badassness of the program.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think Garrett Nussmeier is a badass. They had a lot of guys that went high in the draft. Will Campbell certainly one of those, Mason Taylor, but they just haven't maybe had and last year bringing in the entire new defensive staff and Corey Raymond back and Blake Baker and assembling the staff they did. That was the first year of that culture shift back, because the first 2 years it definitely wasn't. There was zero badassness on that defense, really. And that was unfortunate to watch as somebody who saw so much talent roll through there defensively. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's hard, especially in this day and age, to get everything to come together for a magical year. SMU saw that this past year in a sense. But when you get a coach that is kind of aligned on getting everything as stable as possible, you almost miss a little bit of that disruption that maybe, like Ed Ogeron going out and saying, oh, it's me versus Cincinnati for Joe Burrow. I've got to recruit him. I've got to get a quarterback. I've got to do it. I've got to figure it out. Let me go hire Joe Brady just because the Saints recommended him. Mm-hmm. All those things were pretty wild to do.
Yeah.
Brian Kelly doesn't necessarily operate as much like that. So I don't know if that answered that at all, or was just incoherent rambling, but they're going to be a real good team this year.
Billy, as for Ole Miss, I've seen them, bottom half or towards the end of the top 25 rankings has sort of been trickling out right now. But, man, I see so much about Austin Simmons. I mean, it's crazy. And I know you've covered so many great players, but can you just kind of put into context sort of the buzz around him and the expectations? I mean, with him taking over and Ole Miss trying to, make some noise.
Yeah, they're going for a third straight 10-win season. And who would have thought? We talked about maybe consistency earlier. Who would have thought, all those years ago that Lane Kiffin would now have Ole Miss as one of the more stably consistent programs in the SEC with what they're able to do. Even though they lost a couple head scratchers last year, they're still a team that has assembled a lot of talent on the defensive line, which in the SEC is huge. They have some holes to fix in the secondary, but defensively, they're going to be very good again. Pete Golding's one of the best. Offensively, they replace so much. But Austin Simmons isn't getting talked about like any of these quarterbacks that have sat around maybe a little bit or have gotten a game rep here or there. And he's not getting talked about like some of those guys are. Like Austin Simmons went into the Georgia game, led a touchdown drive, and helped Ole Miss win that game against Georgia. I mean, he has that experience in high-pressure situations now. Arch Manning is getting a ton of buzz for a lot of great reasons. And I see what Arch Manning could be, and he's going to be a good one. But Austin Simmons, his athletic profile with the baseball background, him focusing solely on football now, he's super mature. He's already graduated from Ole Miss at 19 years old. He really has, I think, a lot of the physical tools that, as far as starting quarterbacks go in the SEC, there's probably a handful of them maybe at the top that have this type of athletic profile. And Austin Simmons is going to get into that Lane Kiffin offense. And I think he's going to have some learning experiences early in the season. But athletically, there's so much to like. There's so much talent there. And he's shown enough that Ole Miss still should be probably more in that 10 to 15 range with him. Like, no disrespect to Auburn, but I know they've done a lot. But Jackson Arnold going there doesn't necessarily take them from a non-bowl team, in my opinion, to top 10 preseason. So there's a little bit of that kind of almost wish casting out there from time to time in these preseason top 25 polls. Ole Miss has been consistent. I think when you have a defense like they have shown to have over the last few years, couple that with Lane Kiffin's offense, if they get a run game this year to help out Austin Simmons, something they did not have last year, they'll be dangerous once again, and they'll be challenging for a spot in Atlanta.
Thank you, Billy. Appreciate it, buddy. Good stuff.